The range of machinery created in the USSR was truly astonishing. To this day, people remember the tractors that could run for decades without breaking down, trucks capable of carrying immense loads, and all-terrain vehicles that conquered any obstacle. And that was just the mass-produced equipment. How many prototype and experimental machines were developed beyond that? In this video, we'll showcase the most extraordinary creations born of Soviet engineering. Redut, a mobile self-propelled bunker capable of self-excavation. In the 1970s, as armies began deploying high-precision weaponry, command posts became increasingly vulnerable. The Soviet response was a fortified vehicle designed to withstand a nuclear strike. It was built on an 8-wheeled MAZ-543 chassis. The concept was simple. A pit was excavated for the vehicle to drive into, and then it was covered with earth. Redut could later exit the pit on its own, thanks to a 525 horsepower engine, hydraulics, and a rooftop soil ejection system. The body housed a protected room with a total area of 26 square meters, designed for a crew of 10. Operational crew consisted of 2 people. Inside, heating, ventilation, communications, and autonomous life support. Workstations for officers, retractable shelves with telephones, a separate command table fitted with aircraft-style seats, a record V312 television, and an ECE 7927 display. The vehicle could operate independently for up to 10 days. The project was actively developed through the late 70s, but in the early 80s, Defense Minister Dmitry Ustinov deemed it too expensive. In 1991, Redut was mothballed in the Moscow region. The M62 locomotive on wheels, a hybrid whose purpose remains debated to this day. This bizarre experiment placed the body of the M62 diesel locomotive onto an MZK 7919 wheelbase. Propulsion came from asynchronous electric hub motors powered by a massive 150-liter, 2,000 horsepower diesel engine from the locomotive itself. Batteries and hydraulic systems were housed inside compartments. However, the locomotive's sheer mass overwhelmed the chassis. Hub assemblies failed during testing. The lack of a standard hydraulic steering system forced engineers to cobble together a setup. Custom pumps, tanks, lines, and cabin distribution. The machine moved, but not for long. Wheels disintegrated, hydraulics leaked, and the concept ultimately fell short of expectations. Today, this off-road locomotive can be seen in Bronicy. DT-10 Vityaz, a 2-section tracked amphibious vehicle built for the harsh environments of the far north and Siberia. Developed in 1960s and still produced at the Ishimbay plant, this machine features a modular design. 2 sealed compartments joined by an articulated coupling mechanism with hydraulic cylinders. The front section houses the cab and engine. The rear section functions as a cargo module. It's powered by a turbocharged 4-stroke V-type diesel engine with up to 800 horsepower, capable of starting at -50 degrees Celsius. The transmission is automatic with a hydrodynamic torque converter. Wide rubber metal tracks offer low ground pressure, allowing the Vityaz to traverse snowy plains, soft terrain, and forest roads with ease. Official specs claim it can cross trenches up to 4 meters wide, but in Antarctic expeditions, it managed to conquer fissures up to 8 meters. GAZ-16 Chaika, an experimental vehicle with aerodynamic unloading, developed in 1960 at the Gorky automobile plant. It was an attempt to merge a conventional car with an air cushion vessel. In standard mode, it used a GAZ-21 Volga chassis with independent suspension, hydraulic brakes, and transmission. On roads, it reached speeds up to 170 kilometers per hour. For off-road operation, the chassis retracted, activating an air cushion system driven by 2 large fans. Rather than using a flexible skirt, ground clearance was maintained by a hull design featuring angled slots at 45 degrees. The vehicle could cross water obstacles, producing a dense water mist in its wake. Its engine, a 195 horsepower V8 from the GAZ-13. However, controlling airflow proved inefficient, limiting speed to just 40 kilometers per hour. Later, engineers added propulsion propellers and even a gas turbine engine from a Mi-2 helicopter. Yet no practical application was found. and the project was discontinued. Ultimately, the GAZ-16 combined the drawbacks of both wheeled vehicles and aerodynamic platforms. IMR Object 616, an engineering obstacle-clearing vehicle developed in 1969 at the Novacromators machine-building plant. Designed to forge column routes and clear debris-blocked passages, it was built on the chassis of the T-55 medium tank. The hull was sealed and equipped with anti-nuclear protection, reducing crew radiation exposure tenfold. The bottom was reinforced with steel plating, and the turret support plate was modified. Atop the hull sat the driver mechanic's turret. The bulldozer equipment featured a blade with 3 operating positions. Additional tools included a telescopic boom with a 2-ton lifting capacity and a scraper bucket. Its true purpose emerged in May 1986 near the 4th reactor unit of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The IMR became the only vehicle capable of operating close to the destroyed reactor. It opened paths to the core area, conducted measurements, cleared debris and residual fuel, and aided in sarcophagus construction and assembly operations. Due to extreme radiation levels, the vehicle's armor itself became radioactive. Dozens, possibly hundreds, of IMRs now rest an abandoned airfield near Pripyat. SVG 701 Yamal, a heavy swamp-going transport developed in the 1980s in collaboration with Canadian company Most. Designed to deliver oversized cargo, drilling rigs, equipment, and fuel to remote oil fields, it was also envisioned in a crane variant with a lifting capacity of 140 tons. The military took interest as well, considering its use for transporting ballistic missiles into tundra regions for covert launch capability. Yamal was built to carry up to 70 tons of payload. Its dimensions were imposing: 20 meters long, 4.7 meters wide, and 4.5 meters tall to the roof. Ground clearance reached 520 millimeters, though its center of gravity sat considerably higher. Behind the cab sat a Detroit diesel V8 producing 715 horsepower. Mobility was provided by 2 tracked bogies operating in counterphase, joined by an articulated pivot between the front and rear platforms. The forward cabin housed a driver and was outfitted with a triple heating system: coolant-based, autonomous heater, and liquid heat generator. There was no suspension. Shock absorption relied on 4 pneumatic rollers per bogie. The 1.85-meter wide rubber metal tracks offered low ground pressure. A heavy-duty winch enabled loading of bulky cargo, recovery of stuck equipment, pipe hauling, and self-extraction. With a fuel capacity of 2,120 liters, it had a range of up to 700 kilometers, top speed 15 kilometers per hour. 2 prototypes were built in 1985, but the collapse of the USSR halted any plans for series production. MAZ MVU 30, a 3-wheeled agricultural machine developed by the Minsk automobile plant in the late 1970s. Its name stands for Fertilizer Application Vehicle, with a 30-meter spreading width. The chassis was triaxial, fitted with high-arch tires. The rear wheel spacing matched the front width. The drive axle was rigidly mounted without suspension, similar to articulated dump trucks. Shock absorption came entirely from the tires. Originally, a Yaroslavl diesel was planned, but the prototype received an underdeveloped 210 horsepower Kamaz engine coupled with a manual transmission. In 1978, it entered field testing. Even factory workers were unfamiliar with its purpose: surface application of solid fertilizers, liquid compounds, and agrochemicals. Compared to imported equipment, the MVU 30 showed clear advantages. Payload: 8 tons versus 7. Body volume: 6.8 cubic meters. Operational speed: 50 kilometers per hour versus 37 kilometers per hour. Its efficiency was 10 times greater than a tractor-trailer combo. Thanks to its high off-road capability, it could enter fields 3 weeks earlier, dramatically boosting productivity. Following trials in 1979, the MVU-30 saw limited pilot production, but by the late 1980s, the promising project was discontinued. NAMI 012, a steam-powered truck developed in 1949 by the NAMI Research Institute. Unlike gasifier vehicles, it ran on firewood up to 50 centimeters in length. The chassis came from the YAZ 200 logging truck. For the first time in the USSR, The cab was moved forward with the engine and boiler placed between the cab and cargo bed. It featured a direct flow, high-pressure steam power unit. The engine, 3 cylinders for 0.5 liters in displacement, generating 100 horsepower. Fuel would consumed at a rate of 300 kilograms per 100 kilometers with automated feed. There was no gearbox. Operating modes were controlled via a steam cutoff lever and throttle valve pedal. Range, 100 kilometers on highways, 180 kilometers over water surfaces. Startup time varied up to 40 minutes depending on wood moisture. Payload capacity, 6 tons, with trailer, 12 tons. Tests were conducted in the far north at -40 degrees Celsius, using lake water as feedstock. After trials, the vehicle completed a full round trip from Moscow to Yaroslavl. The review board praised its traction with load, but noted reduced passability when empty. In 1953, an all-wheel drive logging truck, the NAMI 018, was developed comparable in power to the MAZ 501. By 1956, work on steam propulsion ceased, the concept deemed obsolete.